All right, welcome to another edition of the Journey to Freedom podcast. And I just want to welcome you back. Today I'm sitting down with Deron Singh. And let me tell you, if you've ever wondered what it takes to turn wild ideas into game-changing reality, and we're going to talk about hypnosis and things that we don't think about all the time, you are about to hear some truths that you do not want to miss. Stick around because in the first few minutes, we're going to dive into how Deron turned just a lot of these single setbacks that people are having into breakthrough moments, whether it's corporate folks or just your family, whoever else. I hear he's what we call conversational hypnosis, which I have no idea what that is. I just hope that I'm not standing on my head or the things you think will happen with hypnosis by the end of this show. So you are going to want to hear this. And when we think about the journey to freedom and what the journey to freedom represents and how we've gone back and forth over 250 episodes now of Black men in our country, some out of in the world that I've interviewed, and we say, there's not a lot of people who look like me that are doing the thing, right? And Deron, I don't know if you know this or not. I went to a what do you call it? Like the seminar on trust and being able to trust people, and it was really good. There was like 500 people there, but there's only 30 folks of color in the room, and I know that because I counted. And I used to say, well, it doesn't matter. I'm 60 years old now, and I don't ever need to see people who look like me or doing some things that are fantastic in my world. But the reality is, if I didn't need to see it, why am I counting? And maybe you can shed some light on that and some of the things that we go through. And so all of my guests and all the people who come on this show, I always ask them to tell their story. Because to me, it's worth more to know who the person is before I find out what they're doing and how they're making an impact. And so thank you for being on the show today. Thank you for your willingness to just reach out, talk to us about what you do. I can't wait to hear it all. I can't wait to chop it up with you. And more importantly, I can't wait to see how we can both make a difference in the folks' lives that are listening today. So again, thank you for being on. I'm going to give you the floor. Go ahead and take it away. Tell us your story. And then we'll get into, like I said, chop it up right after that.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. B. So my story is, I like to kind of go all over the place with my story. So I'm sure people kind of connect the dots from me doing that. And the reason why I say that is because there was a time when I didn't really know what was going on, even though I knew something was going on at the same time. So this is about me being in my 20s. I was a gym owner, very successful gym owner. I owned 2 gyms. I was doing really well financially, making around $500,000 a year as just a sole proprietor entrepreneur for myself, fully staffed gyms and everything. And it was like everything was going well. And until there's these circumstances, then incidents that actually took place. And it was something like dealing with child custody. It led from that, just dealing with the court process with that. And that led to me having a struggling business. And at the time, it was like me trying to put out all these fires. I didn't know how to do this and run a business at the same time and deal with attorney after attorney, and really providing them all the information I needed as well. Very stressful time in my life. I was just starting to see everything just go downhill from there. Finances go down, resources go down, as friends, family, all those things started to struggle and to suffer from that. And it eventually got to a point where I just couldn't really do it anymore. And I've mentioned this story about to share in just a moment a few times recently, where I was standing in my gym on a Saturday morning, looking outside the back door, which was open. Clients were working out. And I had my arms folded across my chest as I was standing, very personal trainer stance. I'm sure people are familiar with that. And I was just like in this zoned out state. People were working out around me, music was blaring, and I just stared out the back door. And the moment the workout was done, I remember I had people come up to me and they're pretty much reminding me, hey, I need to pay you and this person wants to sign up. And I was just like, we'll do it on Monday. This was a Saturday morning class. The moment everyone left the gym, when it was just me and myself inside the gym, I dropped down to my knees and I just bawled out. And I was just bawling because I was like, I just can't do this anymore. And it was like at that moment, it was like, I guess I cracked. I just knew something. I couldn't manage everything anymore. Um, at that moment, it was the point where I eventually just sold my gyms, and I was like, I have to find out what's next for me. I got into yoga, got into online personal training, got into life coaching, mindset coaching, and it all seemed to feel good in the time being, but then it almost seemed like those old feelings that I had at the gym would slowly creep back into my life. And it was at that moment I was like, I need to talk to someone. So it was when I started working with a therapist at that time. And then the therapist made me go into my past to learn about the things that have taken place at the time. So it made me think about, me experiencing sexual trauma as a kid, physical trauma as a kid, and making me believe how those things were affecting and influencing my life now. And I just held on to that, to where I noticed that, oh man, like my life is this way because of all these experiences I've had in my past. And even as I became all these other trades, let's say coach or yoga instructor or even mindset life coach, I would practice the tools on myself and notice that it seemed like it would give me temporary relief, but there was always like this silent energy or pull that would pull me back into those old feelings. And if I were to describe those old feelings or put a label on it, it was like depression and anxiety and this feeling of hopelessness or helplessness. It was like a metaphor or analogy for it would be like me trying to run a 100-meter dash and I have like a 300-pound like ball connected to my ankle. It's like no matter how much I would try to run, I wasn't going anywhere. And I would just get exhausted, burnt out. And it was just this feeling where I just like, what's the point of even making all this effort? I eventually was still doing like the coaching and everything. And I really got intrigued because a lot of clients that I was working with were really, I noticed like I was doing a lot of therapy type of stuff with them, talking to them about their past. 'Cause I figured like that was what you do, talk about their past. I feel like that's how you help them. So I made an intention. I said, I want to do therapy, but I don't want to go back to school for it. Like spend already enough money on public education and universities, and looked it up to see how long it would take. And I was like, man, yeah, I don't want to do that. But I just made the intention. I'm going to go do something then with therapy without going back to school. Came across an ad on Facebook for hypnotherapy course online and in person, took it. And I was amazed at what it could do for people. Started getting results that I've never experienced before with clients. And then it got to a point where I started working with clients and I'm like, I'm not getting the results like other clients were getting. And that led me to another course and another course. And I eventually landed on conversational style hypnosis or permissive style hypnosis, which I truly believe is the best form of healing that anyone can come across, because it's a paradigm shifter. It makes you see things from a different light, because you start to notice that, hey, you actually don't have to go into the past to resolve anything. Instead, you just pretty much tell your mind what you desire, and your mind will do all the work for you. And I look at it as it actually changes your state. People think they change their beliefs, then you change your life. It's a very popular quote. And I tell them that it's not true. You don't change your beliefs to change your life. You change your state. You change your state, which will change your thoughts, your beliefs, and your emotions. Your state is like that default. So it's like giving people an example. If someone is in a depressed state, is it true that that depressed person can't be happy? It's like, no, they can have moments of happy. Exactly, they can. But once they're once they express that happiness, what do they go back to? They go back to depressed. That's their state. So what are people trying to do? They're trying to change their emotions. It's what people call, oh, I'm gonna do self-care. Yeah, you're trying to change your emotions. But once that self-care action is done, once you do that massage, what do you go back to? You go back to your default state.
Yeah.
So we're so focused on trying to change our thoughts and beliefs and our emotions, but you can tell yourself I'm a millionaire all day long, but your state is what's influencing your thought and emotion. So you actually flip, if this was like a pyramid, you flip it upside down to where you actually focus on your state, because your state is going to influence your emotions and your thoughts. Because, for example, it's like I had a client earlier today, and like I feel extremely relaxed. I was like, yeah. So, you came in with all those thoughts of overthinking, like, what's happening now? They're not there. Like, first, because your state is relaxed. So your state is influencing everything else. And if you're in a relaxed state, guess what? You're going to have relaxed thoughts. You're going to have better thoughts versus someone in an anxious state where they're going to be in more of a doomsday state. So this was the big paradigm shifter for me, which really has excelled me as a person and to help people. And I've worked with some of the most analytical, cognitive people you can think of. And when I first started doing this type of work, I would call them quote unquote difficult clients. And there's no such thing as difficult clients. There's only overly protective clients. And my goal and objective in a session is to help them relax that very protective part of them so they can change into a different state. Because safety is good, protection, being protected is good, but now instead of feeling protected and anxious, why not feel protected and safe instead?
Wow. When I think about like you're talking about states, and I'm trying to relate what state that would be. Like you said, an anxious state. But sometimes I think about the state being your identity in the moment of who you believe you are. Can you kind of maybe tell me the difference between a state and your identity, and then
Well,
how our identity also shapes us?
yeah, they're very similar because in order to change your state and your identity, that's going to happen on the unconscious level.
Okay.
So when you can change on that level, everything else around you is going to change. And that's why it's very imperative to get into that very safe, relaxed state to create those changes. Because there's so many people that want to make more money. And what they'll do is they'll tell themselves that they're rich and they're abundant. And the example I like to give to people is if you're conscious like 5% of the day, this is just like a generalism that I hear a lot, 5% a day you're conscious and the other 95% you're unconscious. If you tell yourself that you're rich and abundant for 1 hour, then the rest of the time, those automatic thoughts are going to be contradicting that. So it's like, which one's going to be more overpowering the other? And where are those other thoughts coming from? It's coming from your state. So instead of you changing your thoughts, you just change your state, and then you notice your state will actually change everything else around it. So it's really focusing on that, because changing your state is an unconscious identity level thing. And you can do that. Everyone has the ability to do that when you can access that part of your mind. And a lot of people think it's scary, it's fearful. It's not. It's really the story and the belief and the narrative that we have around it. But once you let go of that narrative, now you're open to any type of possibility that you want. And that's what's great about it.
So, and I love this conversation because I'm so into how do I figure out, even in my own life still, at 60 years old, wanting to change that state and to become a different person and to do that. And you say, just change your state. What is involved? Because I don't think it's as easy as just saying, maybe it is. I just don't know how to do it and access that part of my mind. But in my mind, yeah, I want to change my state real bad because I don't like where I'm at right now. I want to grow more. And sometimes I think that's personal development or things like that. What is involved in changing a state instead of a belief or an idea?
I'll answer it in a analogy form.
Okay, cool.
It's like you're inside your house and you look outside the window and it's chaotic outside.
Mm-hmm.
You look outside, you just see people running down the street screaming. You're not going to feel very compelled to go outside. You're going to keep the door closed. However, if you look outside and you see little kids playing around and you see people laughing and having a cheerful moment, you're going to be like, I want some more of that. So what do people do? They open the door to go outside. That door in that analogy is like our mind. When our mind feels safe and receptive, it opens. If it doesn't feel safe, if it feels like there's a threat in the external world, the door stays closed. One question you ask is probably the biggest barrier people have to actually changing is they say, how do I do it? How is it done? You don't need to know because your mind does the work for you.
Okay.
Figuring out, conceptualizing, analyzing are efforts of the conscious mind. That is the conscious mind's way of still remaining in control. So questions are a form for the mind to stay in control. Because if you were to cut your arm right now, you don't sit there and say, how is this cut actually being healed right now? It just heals, right?
Yeah.
You're not sitting there saying, how am I able to deliver all this oxygen into my bloodstream to all these cells? Like, we're not doing that. But guess what happens if you were to do it? What happens? You get overwhelmed. And now that's a great explanation of what overthinking is. Trying to control and figure out the entire process, when what if you just let go how the process is and just let it be what it is? Because in the hypnotic state, all you do is you just tell the mind, hey, Dr. B, you can be successful now. And the mind says, okay, because it knows how to. And it will show up in so many ways. One of the first things that happens is your state changes, because now, it kind of thinking of it from a form of energy, your energy is in that successful state. Now you're going to feel successful, right? So now we're going into the act as if, fake it till you make it idea, the Nevilism. And now your thoughts are going to be easier because I feel really good. Like, man, things are coming easy. These aren't fake affirmations. These are affirmations that are really natural to you. And guess what happens? It compounds. I'm feeling really good. Man, I'm feeling even better. man, like I'm unstoppable. Like great things just keep on happening to me. This isn't an affirmation. This is your identity. This is like your truth.
Mhm. Yeah.
So now you're like, I'm on a roll. So the key is not to get fixated on how it happens. You just tell your mind, hey, this is what I want. Do it. And the mind really just, and there's one thing that's true about the mind. The unconscious mind always agrees. It never disagrees with you. Conscious mind can agree and disagree. Unconscious mind will always agree. So if you tell your mind to do this, it will do it. Simple as that.
So give me an example. I mean, because you're saying don't do the affirmations or fake it type till you make it type stuff. You just tell your mind. How often are you just telling your mind to just make it happen? Is it something that you have to do daily and develop a muscle of doing this, or is it just you tell it once and then let go and then go do what while you're waiting for your mind to do it?
To me, it's not something that you have to do daily, because once you impress the mind with that, let's say, idea, it has it. So when people want to do like the affirmations, and and also, Dr. B, let me say this too. For anyone that's watching or listening, if that stuff is working for you, keep doing it. I am no way saying to stop doing it if it's working. I always tell people, if what you are doing right now, even if it goes against what I'm saying works, then like you just keep doing it. That's what I want. I want everyone to get better in their own respective way. I just know that clients come to me and they will tell me, Deron, I did affirmations, I did meditations, I did yoga retreats, I did mantras, I did therapy, breath work, effort, did this, that, psychedelics, da. And I'm like, yeah, I did the same stuff too. And this is what has helped me, because it ultimately is as simple as you just have to access that part of your mind. So if someone's doing it and it's working, keep on doing it. What I will say is, if you're doing it because there's that idea, like it's repetition, repetition, repetition. However, the repetition may not enter your mind because your mind may not feel safe to actually let that enter in your mind.
You talked about the safety, like the door in the analogy you use, it said the door of your mind is closed because you don't feel safe opening it, or the house because there's chaos going on outside. Is there certain things that we can do to make our minds feel safer or make ourselves feel safer so that door has the ability to be accessed and then open? Or is it it's just you
Mm-hmm.
tell your mind, hey, feel safe? I,
Well,
I'm really intrigued in this, so I want to
it
find
would be
out how.
great. Yeah, it would be great if you can just tell your mind, hey, like be safe. But by doing that, your mind's going to actually tighten up and resist even more. Because
Okay.
the reason why you don't feel safe is because your mind's protect you from something. So your mind's in one great way to get in to access that hypnotic state is to just be honest with yourself about stuff. Like, hey, what I'm feeling, I don't like. And by you doing that, you're actually closing the bridge between your conscious mind and your unconscious mind. Another way you can do it is to just, you can write out like, hey, what would your life look like if you were happier? Oh, I would be doing this, I would be doing this, because now you're using that part of your brain where it's starting to get into like that, the visionary aspect of it, the imaginary aspect of it. So those are like probably the best processes you can do. Um, I mean, ultimately, if you have someone that is that very analytical person that likes to question things, that person could actually handle that process. How? Because, okay, am I am I doing this right? I don't know. This doesn't seem like it's gonna work. They're stuck in their head and they're not in the motions of it all or the state of it. So that's what's really, really critical for that.
Now, you said that you have to be honest with yourself, but I'm thinking you don't want to tell yourself like, I suck, I'm terrible, I'm not worthy, I'm not enough. Some of those words that we tend to use all the time that I don't believe are true, but somehow we've convinced ourselves of those things. When we're being honest with ourselves, how are we doing that? How do we start having that conversation with ourselves that isn't, or maybe it should be, but that is, you're the worst of the worst,
Hmm.
instead of you're not, but you're just not where you want to be.
Yeah, that's a good question, and that's one of the, I don't want to say the worst, but I'll say that's one of the worst things you can do is tell yourself those things because they're not true.
Hmm.
They're stories. And I know a lot of people really get really surprised when I say this, especially because I started this episode talking about my story. With hypnosis, there's no story involved. We don't go into the past. We don't talk about the past at all because that's not where we're trying to go. And in addition to that, what takes place for people is in a therapy model, and this is in no disrespect for people in the therapy model world and everything. You have people that are bringing up the past, but what are they doing? They're reliving it. Why would we want to do that? Well, it's because people have been told and conditioned to believe, oh, to heal from the past, you have to go into the past. Well, if that was true, then why are people still dealing with the same issues over and over and over again? Because you could tell someone, hey, sit down and just imagine this beautiful flower in front of you. And as you're looking at it, you're just seeing the light shine off of its petals, and then the reflection is just glimmering all around you. And it's like, oh, that feels so good. Just think about that. Yeah. Right. Which is good. But of course, obviously, like as I've been mentioned, this is using your thoughts, which is creating a feeling, but it's not changing your state. Or you can sit there and talk about how when you were a kid, your mom yelled at you and she threw you into a room and locked you in there for hours and hours, and you cried and no one came to help you. Like, now the emotion with that, like how is that releasing the emotion? It's not, because what you're doing is you're recreating the emotion. And if your state is already that state, then you're just reinforcing that state. So the key is going back to your question, Dr. B, like being honest. Hey, right now, I'm sitting here. I'm breathing. I'm listening. And as I'm doing those things, I just notice a thought. The thought is not I am, the thought is I'm a loser.
Hmm.
Because there's one, I am a loser, is you identifying yourself as that. The other is I had a thought that I'm a loser. And even if I have that thought, perhaps I can be something different, maybe something better. And from that, you're taking what's honest in the moment, and the best thing to do is be present. And this helps you become present because safety is only in the present moment. You just tap into what's happening right now. Anyone can do that. Sit down and notice what happens. Hey, I'm listening. I'm breathing. I just had a thought about my friend. I feel something in my body and I don't know what it is. And maybe I don't have to know what it is. I can just be with it. Because a lot of times we want to try to figure out why that feeling is. But maybe it's not about us trying to figure out what the feeling is. Maybe it's happening because it wants to be expressed. So what do? We don't try to analyze it, because then instead of being in here, you're in here. Hey, this feeling's here. I'm not going to change it, because maybe by not changing, I actually do change.
Hmm. Yeah, I can see
And
that.
that's ultimately the key for almost every person. And that was the biggest thing for me. I was so fixated on changing. But I realized by me focusing on that, I was pressuring myself to change. And it was like, whoa, actually, maybe I don't have to change. Maybe what it actually is me just accepting where I am right now. Because once again, that's law of attraction work right there. if I want more of like like what you want is not in the future, it's in the now. And one of my favorite quotes is said Abraham Hicks quote, life doesn't get better now until it gets better now.
I
So
like that.
you don't seek, and that was one of my hardest things is I looked at the future as going to make me, oh, tomorrow's going to be, tomorrow's going to make me better. No, it's not. Tomorrow's going to bring you more of what you have now. So
Mhm.
stop thinking about tomorrow, the next day, the next year, the next 10 years and 10, 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 plus year plans. Focus on now. Notice what you feel. Is it uncomfortable? Good. Sit with that uncomfort because guess what that uncomfort turns into? It turns into transformation because you're not running from it anymore. You're actually sitting with that feeling instead of running from it into the future where you think it's not going to be there, but it's going to until you resolve it now. And when you resolve it now, what emerges? Change. Because you didn't try to change. You let it change.
I, I, have, I want to unpack this past thing a little bit with you. Because there's things that if they're building blocks, I guess, or maybe they're not, but when I think of other people's past, are we as they're teaching us or training us on things they did in order to be maybe where we want to go, or our own past, the things that worked that we were successful at that we want to do more of because we were happy in that state, we were excited in that state, so we want to continue to repeat that. But if we're not looking back to what created that, what brought us on, are we doing ourselves a disservice, or we don't concentrate on the bad things and we concentrate on the good things? How do we, I guess, reconcile the things that are going well so we can keep doing more of it?
Well, I think that's a good point because if you're looking into the past for all the good stuff, then is there an issue with right now? Like,
Hmm.
what do you keep going into the past for? If the past is really not even existent, it's just a construct we hold into our mind. So for me, I did that a lot, and it was a point where I really had someone caught me and like, hey, I sold my gym and everything. I was in a different area of my life career wise, and someone said, hey, you ever notice you always compare yourself to when you were a gym owner? And I was like, oh man, I didn't realize that. Like, oh, when I was a gym owner, I did this. When I was a gym owner, I did that. Like, you ever notice you do that? And I was like, dang. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I did it because that point of my life is where I thought I had the most enjoyable time.
Hmm.
So think about what I'm telling myself in the moment, because once again, your unconscious mind is picking up all. Right now is not good. Right now is not good. I need more of the past stuff.
Oh
So
my gosh. Yeah, that is
yeah,
so. Well, I think about like all the friends and stuff that if I go back to college, and all they want to talk about is our college days, and I just guys like, wait a minute, that's 30 years ago. It's okay to remember for a minute or two, but I don't want to live there again. I don't want to go back to college. I don't. But I love that word comparison that you just said. Is that a dangerous word, comparison, for most of us that we get caught in, you know, comparing our lives, comparing ourselves, comparing others? Is it something we should do or just throw that word out of our lives?
um, I look at it as this way: if an individual could or can accept themselves exactly as they are, there would be no reason to compare themselves. And it even goes to a point where I love what I do so much because it allows people to tap into their own innate abilities. And there's a really, really great book. It's called The Magician's Way. It's a phenomenal book. And I love the book because I kind of give a backstory. It's this guy, he wants to become a better golfer. And he's hired all the coaches to perfect his swing and his form and technique and this, that, yada, yada, yada. And he wants to become a better golfer because it's a great way for him to connect with his clients for his business and everything. And he goes to his friend's house in the city, and then he talks to his friend, and he's like, hey, you need to see this guy. Like, this guy will make you better, I promise. So this one guy, he goes to see this golf guy. Let's call him golf coach for the purpose. And he watches him swing. He just hit a couple of balls and swings, and he's working on his form. And he's like, hey, I could tell your problems. Like, you're so fixated on your form that you're not actually even allowing your body to just hit the ball into the hole. So the guy said, close your eyes. And now just imagine, visualize yourself hitting the ball into the hole. And then what I want you to do is I'm going to have you open your eyes. You're not going to think. You're just going to hit the ball. And he does it. And then the first time, he's like, oh, I hit the tree. Oh, my goodness. He's like, yeah. I know you did. And I know why you did. Because before you hit the ball, what did you do? He's like, well, before I hit the ball, I did have a thought that I was going to hit the tree. And look what happened. It's like, do it again. So he does it again, opens his eyes, hits the ball, boom, goes right into the hole. It's like, wow, it happened. It's like, exactly. Because you are so fixated on your form and the technique and how to hit the ball, the grip. But what you did instead is you focused on the outcome. You hit the ball. And during that process, once again, this that kind of connects everything back too. You didn't think about how it was going to be done. You allowed your body to move in the way for it to go into the hole. And it's beautiful because it really is a reminder for me and even your audience that maybe you don't need technique and form and to know how to do it. Maybe you just put trust that you already do know how and you just hit it.
And that's so good because so many of us think that because we're not getting in this instant world the outcome that we think we should get, we keep going back to things that we know don't work. Right? Why would I continue to do? I've been doing this same thing over and over again. And you go, well, this is my way. Well, it doesn't work. Stop doing it. Allow your mind to switch over. One thing I'd love to ask you as we're getting this show is, I've read and heard you on some podcasts where you talk about conversational hypnosis and how it can help us. And maybe talk about what is it compared to regular hypnosis, I guess, if we're comparing tonight. And then how is it that it can help us with this issue that you're talking about, is doing the same thing over and over again, and expecting these results to be so much different. Or I'll just get another technique, or just read another book, or I'll just have another coach that tells me the exact same thing, and we just keep doing it.
Yeah, and I did that. I went from coach to coach to coach to coach, and I even had hired coaches and didn't even have the money to hire them, but I was like, oh, this is going to help me. And then I was like, man, it didn't help. So, I mean, it made me feel let down. And ultimately, conversational hypnosis versus what I would call direct hypnosis. Direct hypnosis is what people are more familiar with. That's them going to hypnotherapists, and they're going to start them with a relaxing meditation or visualization, relax their body. And then they're going to just give them direct suggestions. Okay, Dr. B, you're successful. You're this, you're that. And then on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, you're going to come up and come back to a natural waking state. And you're like, oh, wow. So it's like, okay, I felt relaxed. That may work for some, may not work for many. That's what I've learned, because we have that analytical mind. So what happens is, if you're talking to someone, you're like, okay, Dr. B, go ahead and close your eyes and count down from 3 to 1 and imagine a staircase. You may be like, what color should that staircase be? He didn't tell me. He didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay. He said, count down from 10 to 9. How fast should I go? Or should I listen to him? Should I be wiggling my toes right now? I feel kind of cold. So they're pulling themselves out the process from doing that. with conversational, it is like the name itself, it's conversational based. I'm ultimately having a conversation with someone and speaking to them in a way to help them relax that part of the mind that's questioning things. That
Mhm.
mind's like, hey, this isn't working. You know what? I feel something changing, but it can't be from that. Okay, he just said that what I'm feeling is probably from this. Okay, maybe is he reading my mind right now? And then the mind's like, ugh, it just goes to
Mhm.
sleep. And then it's like, it's like the visualization that came in my head is like the mom, the conscious mind went to sleep, and then there's this kid with this donut in his hand, like, and it's like, oh crap, what do you want? Like, hey, you know what? You're gonna lose weight now. You know, and it's like, okay, donuts go away. And you can accept yourself. And now, one thing that's really important too is I'm not gonna give direct suggestions like that. It's gonna be very permissive. And you know, even as you sit there, you might notice that it can all happen right now. Simply as like as simple as that. Especially noticing that everything that's happening is available. And what that does is if that conscious mind comes back up and it's like, what is he saying? It goes right back to sleep because the language is not for the conscious mind. The language is for the unconscious mind. Because the goal is for you to not know what is going on. Because your mind unconscious knows what's going on. So you just feed it the language of it. And that's how it makes the transformation happen.
Wow. So, as I think through this process, and it's almost where as you're having a conversation, you're giving somebody the permission to let that door open so they can go out there and be successful. Just because you're not concentrating on all like you haven't gone into the past and tried to fix stuff that doesn't need to be fixed, and you're now here in the now, and we're staying in the now, and we're saying, okay, hey, this is truly what I desire or I want, and I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I don't need to know how I'm going to get there because my mind's going to figure that out.
Exactly.
Subconscious.
You're like it goes back to what I said. You're not trying to figure out how your wound is healing because your mind's doing it for you. You're not
Mhm.
trying to figure out how to breathe and how to blink and how to respirate or beat your heart. It's all being done for you. And the power behind that is the exact same power that is behind changing your state, which changes everything else because of that.
So, are there states that we want to avoid that we seem to me? Maybe there's some that are just not good for us, and somehow we end up back there most of the time. How do we change our state and stay in the new state without reverting back to some of those that don't serve us?
So what creates states is going to be what we consider traumatic events.
Okay.
Anytime the body is threatened in any way, whether it be verbally, physically, emotionally, whatever, it alters someone's state. To give someone an example, if someone is in a car and then they're on in a head-on collision, that's going to create a state for them. So this is how come people can drive by a place where they had an accident and their body tenses up. Like, why is this happening? Well, because your body's in that state and it still recalls that. And what is it doing? It's reliving it through your eyes. It's picking up all the information in that exact same area and it's creating that state for you. Or you're already in that state, but now what's happening is physically your body is reacting to it. It goes back to safety. It really goes back to safety. The more safe someone is and they feel, and one of the biggest things I see with people is they're experiencing um, the overthinking part of their mind wants to stay in control because stillness or silence doesn't seem safe. Because what makes them feel quote unquote safe, the illusion of safe, is their mind constantly being in control, chatting away. You should do this, you should do that. And then they're like, oh man, like I hate how my mind does this. And I tell them, you shouldn't hate it. You should actually be grateful that your mind does it. Yes, it may seem like a behavior you don't like, but if you know that your mind is doing that to keep you safe, then why would you reject that part of you? And I can just say that statement to almost anyone, and then they'll go into trance because they never thought of that way. What they're doing is they're looking at their behavior as negative. But by them doing that, what are they doing? They're telling their mind, hey, what you're doing to help me cope, I don't like. And now it's like this self-abandonment that takes place when it really should be, hey, this behavior that you're doing, it actually is keeping me safe. Perhaps we can find a new way to keep me safe that's healthier and more whole. And the mind can be like, oh, didn't know you actually want a different way. We just knew it could be like an imprint from the past, but once again, it doesn't mean we have to go there, but the mind still has a record. The mind can be like, oh, we just knew when you were that 15-year-old kid, you picked up that bottle of vodka in your mom and dad's, liquor cabinet or whatever, and that made you numb out and forget about what happened. Oh, you don't want to do that anymore? We didn't even know. What do you want instead? Happiness. Okay, forgiveness. Cool. And just like that, it'll change.
Yeah. Is the type of safety that you're referring to environmental? Because I think when I go to think about safety, I think about, going outside, what's happening in the environment. Am I in a good neighborhood? Are the street lights on? I can imagine even for women, it's even more scary. Who's walking behind me? Who's not? And I guess I don't want to get scared, but right now I don't feel like you're talking about that type of safety, like, because one person could feel super safe in that environment where another is super scared in that environment, right?
Exactly. You pretty much answered the way I was going to answer it. It depends on the person, right? It's like some people. It's like how some people say they thrive the most in busy atmospheres, and some people they thrive the most in quiet atmospheres. It really is meeting the client with where they are. We're not trying to take them away from where they are. You're meeting them with where they are, and you're allowing their mind to let the process unfold the way that's best for them. You're giving them the space, the time, and the ability to do so without interrupting it. And sometimes they'll come out with some insight, and then you just utilize that, and you make that part of the process as well.
When I think about like trusting ourselves, I think some people don't feel, and I could be totally wrong on this, but they don't feel safe about the decisions they're going to make, or they don't feel safe in the things that they're going to do or say that are going to get them into trouble. But because they're thinking about that, they go and do it anyways, right? Because it's what's on their mind consciously of, hey, I don't want to do this. 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 And because they're continually thinking about that, they end up doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it goes back to just being present. Like in the present moment, you're going off of like intuition, which is like that unconscious intuitive hit. Like, I don't know why I feel like doing this, but I just feel compelled to do it. And one thing I tell people is, if the decision that you're making, because I hear people say this often, like, oh, those hard decisions are sometimes the best decision. You'll know if this decision's right if you feel aligned. If it feels aligned, it's most likely a good decision. You just act on it and you do it. And you go with that because your unconscious mind is not trying to force you to do something. It's aligning you. The conscious mind is hey, you got to work hard. You got to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. You got to hustle and you got to grind. And even if you're tired, you push through it. And, F your feelings. That's like, it's torturous to yourself. Your subconscious mind is like, hey, sleep in. The conscious like, no, we have to get up. Like if we don't get up at this time, like we're not gonna be successful. And your unconscious mind's like, you can still be successful. Like, what's the rush? But we've got conditioned from societal norms, like, oh, get up at 4 o'clock, work to 9 p.m., do ice baths in the morning, meditate for 2 hours, exercise. We, eat carnivore, keto, vegan. We've been conditioned to do all these things to the point where we don't even listen to ourselves and what our body actually needs, because your body may not need any of that stuff. And sometimes your body's like, I want you to do nothing today. And there could be that fear that comes in. No, we got to do something. But what if you doing nothing is the best thing for you? Where in that moment of nothingness, you get all these ideas and resources. And then the next day comes around, you implement just one, and that becomes $1 million idea, let's say. It's just a matter of just experiencing it and seeing.
It seems like I know people, though, that will say, I'm not going to do anything today. And then they get up tomorrow and say, I'm not going to do anything tomorrow. And then they get up the next day, I'm not going to do anything the next day. And they just, because of their fears, because of safety, that like you've been talking about, or because of the depressed state, they end up not doing things that can move the needle. And now they're in this position where I guess life is happening to them instead of them helping life happen or making life happen. How do we spend time helping those folks get out of that?
So for those individuals, my question is, do you really want to do something? Is it you want to do something and you're not, or is it you actually don't want to do nothing and you actually are doing nothing? So I look at it is your intention and your behavior lining up? Because it could be something where someone's saying like I used to be, something I would say is I would lie in bed for hours and I'd tell myself, I just want to get up and get up, get up, get up, get up, get up, get up. And I wouldn't get up. And it could be the other way around. It's, I want to lay in bed, or I want to get up, but I want to lay in bed, or vice versa. I can't remember which way it was, but it can be either way. So I think are they really saying that and doing it, or are they actually only wanting to do it, but just saying it?
I love how you put that word intention in there, because it reminds me this time of year, right? People are gearing up for the holiday season, and then you own the gym, so you know that come January, everybody's going to jump into the gym, and their intention, I think or believe, is that they feel better about their bodies, and whether it's losing weight so they can feel better, or it's just getting in shape so they can feel better. But then they put all this on them that I have to do, like you said, get up at 4:00 in the morning and eat ice cubes, and then so regimented, and they're not in that state to be able to do that, and then they give up so quickly because it isn't that identity or that state that's allowing them to do it.
You're nailing it on the head. That's exactly what it is. They're using conscious effort, thinking that it's going to last, but their state never changes. It's like having weeds in the garden, but you're planting flowers on top. The weeds are still going to come out. They're still going to be there. Like you have to extract the weeds. So that's really what happens with the people with the New Year's resolutions. They're telling themselves, come January 1st. And it's like, why not right now? Why not start now? Because they convinced their mind to start in a future time, which really there is no future, it's only now. And when they do it, guess what? They could see results. They could not see results. That's not what's important. They can still see results, but guess what? Their state may not change from it. They may feel differently, but their state isn't going to change. And it takes one small little trigger, boom, and then guess what? All that progress goes away. And then they're like, what's the point of me doing this? It's never going to change. And then they wait till next year to do the same process. And this is, and I'm glad you brought that up, because it shows how powerful changing your state actually is.
Yeah, because the people who do it and absolutely change their state, they continue to move forward. And the folks that just stay in the state they're in and expect different results almost probably end up going backwards from where they really wanted to be. So instead of losing the 10 pounds or the 20 pounds, they gain 5 pounds or 10 pounds.
Yeah. And I've also seen it to where people use so much effort and energy to get progress and results, And guess what ends up happening? They get tired. They get burnt out. So the 6 days a week turns into 5 to 4 to 3 to once every other week to I haven't been in the gym for like 2 months because all that energy is like they don't have any effort to do it anymore. They're just doing so much. They're not listening to what their body needs. Listen, I've had people where they don't even work out. They're in such a really relaxed state. Their body's releasing because the cortisol is low. So I mean, you think about the physiology part, like what's really put on weight, it's gonna be cortisol. So when you eat inflammatory foods, it increases your cortisol. When you work out, it increases cortisol. And if you have a really great state, when you work out, it increases your cortisol. But when you sleep really deeply and heavily, you're dropping your cortisol levels and you're increasing your human growth hormone, which helps you put into fat burning. So I say that because even if you were like, I don't know if hypnosis can work for me. Well, there's the science behind the physiology behind if you were trying to use it for weight loss right there.
Yeah. Wow. Man, it's so cool. I want to continue to have conversations with you. I know we've been at time, and I want to give you the opportunity because I asked all the selfish questions that I wanted to know so that tomorrow morning when I wake up, I'm changing my state into where I want it to be. I'm not actually changing it. I'm letting my mind change it. I'm just opening the door somehow through the things that I say or do because I've told myself tonight, this is what I want. And then I let my body go do it.
There you go.
What did we talk about that you want to make sure that we bring up and tell people how to get a hold of you and all that kind of really cool stuff?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I want people to know is like, no matter what you're going through, it's possible. And I keep that very vague because whatever that means to you, whomever's listening, just know that. Doesn't matter what it is, it's possible. And that's something that I used to write down, like something I used to write down over and over again is anything is possible. Anything is possible. So that if there's a mantra that I definitely know made a difference in my life, it was that one. And that one was one I came across from Les Brown earlier in my career as a gym owner. I would listen to him heavily. It's possible. It's possible. And his stories, he's a phenomenal storyteller, which is hypnosis, by the way, for people that don't know. So if you want to find me, follow me, work with me, you can check me out at deronsingh.com. Instagram and YouTube handle at Deron_Singh. I post pretty insightful content on there. It's really to help you really like I just said, know that whatever it is, like it's possible. I mean, like I work with clients who have done everything known under the sun. And I don't say this to impress, but to impress upon, because it's not me doing the work. It's all I'm doing is creating the atmosphere for individuals to have the experience that they truly desire. And what I really love is when people realize, Deron, it's always been here. And I say, I know. Perhaps the stories you kept telling yourself about when I was this age and when I was that age and he did this and she did that. Maybe those stories were like clouds blocking you from your own sun.
Wow. That is so cool.
Yeah.
Just to take the time to just think through all of this is huge. Instead of just always trying, and then getting those same results. But if I just set back, let my mind work the way it's supposed to, and then open the doors for me that are going to take me to different levels. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, so sweet. Well, thank you for getting on with us today and spending this hour with me has been so insightful for me. I'm just as I'm processing and figuring out exactly what I'm going to do as a result. I want you guys to go ahead if this is your first episode of Journey Freedom you've ever watched. Go ahead and hit subscribe and notifications and all those things to hear some of our amazing guests. And I promise you, Deron and I are not done. We are going to have more conversations and hopefully be able to help you get to the place that you want to be, because ultimately That's the gift. That is what we are here for. That's why we're having these conversations. It's not so that, part of it is so that we can better ourselves, but ultimately the part is that we can help your lives become better as a result of you making better choices, thinking differently, moving on differently, trying things differently, so that you can hit those levels of success that you desire. And so, again, thank you for being on. I can't wait to see you in the beaches of the world or wherever our paths will cross. And we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. You guys have an amazing, awesome, just incredible day today. For me, don't forget your God's grace gift. He loves you if you allow him to, but just think through, slow down a little bit, watch this over and over and over again, so you'll be able to change who you are. Have a wonderful day.